What if I told you that the secret to sharper memory, better circulation, and a stronger heart after 60 isn't found in a prescription bottle, but in a small, crunchy snack you probably already have in your pantry? It sounds like one of those miracle food claims that pop up in your feed every day. But I'm not talking about a marketing gimmick. I'm talking about a specific nut that is so dense with brain-protective nutrients that researchers are starting to call it neuronutrition. However, there is a catch. For every super nut that can help you age backwards, there are others that might actually be working against your health goals, clogging up your system with hidden inflammatory fats or making your blood pressure harder to manage. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly which nut reigns supreme for seniors, which two you should strictly avoid or keep at a distance, and the surprising reason why how you eat them matters just as much as what you eat. Stick with me, because if you're looking to protect your cognitive health and energy levels in your 60s, 70s, and beyond, this one matters. Hey, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, this is where we dig into the real science behind aging, heart health, and longevity, without the hype and without the scare tactics. Today, we're tackling a topic that many of you have asked about in the comments: nuts. They are nature's ultimate convenience food, packed with protein and healthy fats. But as we get older, our nutritional needs change. What worked for your body at 30 might not be the best choice at 70. Statistics show that nearly 1 in 3 seniors in the United States has some form of cardiovascular disease, and nearly 6 million are living with Alzheimer's. When we look at global health data, we see that diet is the single largest modifiable risk factor for these conditions. And in the world of nutrition science, nuts have emerged as a powerhouse for prevention. But here is the thing: not all nuts are created equal. Some are literal medicine for your arteries, while others are essentially salt bombs or omega-6 traps that can trigger the very inflammation we are trying to avoid. Let's walk through the science of why this tiny food category is making such a big splash in longevity research. First, I need to explain why nuts are so uniquely beneficial for the aging body. Your blood vessels and your brain cells share a common enemy: oxidative stress. Think of oxidative stress like rust on a car. Over decades, it wears down the protective coatings of your neurons and makes your arteries stiff. Nuts are packed with vitamin E, polyphenols, and specific minerals that act like a rust remover for your internal systems. But beyond just antioxidants, nuts contain unique ratios of fats. As we age, our bodies become more sensitive to inflammation. If we eat too many omega-6 fatty acids and not enough omega-3s, we create an environment where inflammation can thrive. This is where most seniors go wrong. They pick the wrong nut, and instead of helping their brain, they are accidentally fueling the fire. So, let's get to the superstar of the day. If you had to pick just one nut to include in your diet after 60, the research overwhelmingly points to one winner: the walnut. Now, you've probably seen them in salads or brownies, but when you look at the raw data, walnuts are in a league of their own. Why? Because they are the only nut that contains a significant amount of alpha-linolenic acid, or ALA. This is a plant-based omega-3 fatty acid that is an absolute essential for brain health. A landmark study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition followed thousands of seniors and found that those who ate just a handful of walnuts a day had significantly better scores on cognitive function tests compared to those who didn't. They were faster at processing information and had better memory recall. But it isn't just about the brain. Walnuts are a circulation secret. They help the endothelium, that's the thin lining of your blood vessels, stay flexible. Flexible vessels mean lower blood pressure and a lower risk of stroke. For a senior, that is the ultimate goal. But before you run out and buy a giant bag of walnuts, we have to talk about the 2 nuts you should probably avoid, or at least be very cautious with. The first one might surprise you because it's a global favorite: the peanut. Now, strictly speaking, a peanut is a legume, not a tree nut, but we treat it like a nut. The problem for seniors isn't necessarily the peanut itself, but how it's processed. Most peanuts sold in stores are roasted in hidden industrial seed oils like cottonseed or soybean oil. These oils are extremely high in omega-6 fats, which can contribute to joint pain and systemic inflammation, the last things you want in your 60s. Furthermore, peanuts are highly susceptible to a mold called aflatoxin, which can be hard on the liver. If you love peanuts, you have to be incredibly selective about the brand, but for most seniors looking for longevity, there are simply better options that offer more bang for your buck. The second nut to avoid? The macadamia nut, but for a very specific reason. While macadamias are delicious and high in healthy monounsaturated fats, they are the most calorie-dense nut on the planet. A small handful can easily pack 200 to 300 calories. For many seniors, metabolism naturally slows down. Weight gain, especially around the midsection, increases the risk of type 2 diabetes and puts extra strain on aging knees and hips. Unless you are an elite athlete or struggling to maintain weight, the calorie-to-nutrient ratio of the macadamia nut makes it a risky choice. It's very easy to overeat them, and before you know it, you've consumed half your daily caloric needs in a single snack session. Now let's talk about the honorable mentions, because diversity is key. While walnuts are the gold standard, pistachios and almonds deserve a place on your plate too. Pistachios are known as the skinny nut because you get more nuts per serving for fewer calories. More importantly for seniors, they are high in lutein and zeaxanthin, two antioxidants that are critical for eye health. Since macular degeneration is a leading cause of vision loss as we age, snacking on pistachios is like wearing internal sunglasses for your retinas. Almonds, on the other hand, are the kings of vitamin E. Just 1 ounce provides nearly 40% of your daily requirement. This is vital because vitamin E protects your cell membranes from damage, keeping your skin and your internal organs more resilient. But here is the part of the video that I think matters most, and it's the part most people overlook: the nut trap. Even the healthiest nut in the world becomes a health hazard if it's coated in 2 things: salt and sugar. Most trail mixes, or honey-roasted options, are essentially candy masquerading as health food. For a senior, excess sodium is the fast track to fluid retention and spiked blood pressure. In fact, a single serving of heavily salted nuts can contain more sodium than a bag of potato chips. This completely cancels out the heart-healthy benefits of the fats and minerals. The science is clear. The most effective way to eat nuts for longevity is raw or dry roasted with 0 added salt. I know it sounds less exciting, but your taste buds actually adapt. After 2 weeks of eating unsalted nuts, you'll start to taste the actual complexity of the nut, the creaminess of the walnut, the sweetness of the almond. You're no longer just tasting a salt lick. Another pro tip for seniors: soak your nuts. I know it sounds like an extra step, but nuts contain anti-nutrients like phytic acid that can make them hard to digest and can actually block the absorption of minerals like calcium and magnesium. By soaking your walnuts or almonds in water for a few hours, or overnight, and then rinsing them, you neutralize these compounds. This makes them much easier on your digestive system, which often becomes more sensitive as we get older, and ensures you're actually absorbing the nutrients you're paying for. So how much should you be eating? The longevity dose found in most clinical trials is about 1 ounce a day. That's roughly 7 whole walnuts, or about 23 almonds. You don't need to eat the whole bag. In fact, the benefits seem to plateau after that 1 ounce mark. Think of it as a daily supplement. I like to keep a small glass jar on my counter with a mix of walnuts, a few almonds, and a couple of pistachios. That way, it's a conscious choice, not mindless grazing while watching TV. Let's dive deeper into why the specific choice of walnuts is so transformative as we age. When we look at the cognitive decline patterns in the US, there are staggering disparities that we need to address. For instance, Black Americans are twice as likely as older white Americans to have Alzheimer's or other dementias. Hispanics are about 1.5 times as likely. While there are many complex reasons for this, including systemic healthcare disparities, nutrition is a massive piece of the puzzle that we can control in our own kitchens. Clinical research shows that the neuroprotective effects of omega-3s are universal across all racial groups. By introducing just 1.5 ounces of walnuts daily, we are directly combating the neuroinflammation that disproportionately affects these high-risk communities. This isn't just about eating healthy, it's about a targeted biological intervention to protect your independence. Beyond the brain, let's talk about the silent pressure cooker, your cardiovascular system. Hypertension or high blood pressure is incredibly prevalent in the senior population. In the United States, about 55% of Black adults have high blood pressure, compared to 45% of white adults and 43% of Hispanic adults. Now think about those salt bombs I mentioned earlier. If you are already at a higher genetic or systemic risk for hypertension, a single handful of salted cashews or peanuts can push your sodium intake over the safe limit for the entire day. This causes the kidneys to hold on to water, which increases blood volume and puts immense strain on your heart. When you switch to raw walnuts, you aren't just avoiding salt, you are actively consuming potassium and magnesium, which act as natural vasodilators. They tell your arteries to relax. I want to talk about something that often gets ignored in nutrition videos: affordability and access. I know that raw walnuts can be more expensive than a giant tub of oily, salted peanuts. But I want you to think about the cost of illness versus the cost of wellness. The average cost of dementia care in the U.S. is over $300,000 per person in the final years of life. A bag of walnuts is a down payment on a future where you are still mobile, still sharp, and still present for your grandkids. If budget is a concern, look for walnut pieces rather than whole halves. They are usually significantly cheaper and contain the exact same nutrients. You can also buy in bulk and store them in the freezer to prevent the delicate omega-3 fats from going rancid. Now let's address the metabolic side of things. As we cross the 60-year threshold, insulin resistance becomes a major hurdle. Even if you've never had a weight problem, your body's ability to process sugar and refined carbs decreases. This is why the nut trap of honey-roasted or glazed nuts is so dangerous. Those coatings are usually made with high fructose corn syrup or maltodextrin. When you eat them, your blood sugar spikes, followed by a massive insulin dump. Chronic high insulin levels are linked to everything from increased cancer risk to faster cognitive decline. By sticking to the supers like walnuts and almonds in their raw form, you are providing a snack that actually stabilizes blood sugar. The protein and fiber in nuts slow down the digestion process, giving you a steady stream of energy instead of the crash and burn cycle. I also want to touch on the importance of nut synergy. While I've crowned the walnut as the king, it works best when it has a supporting cast. For example, Brazil nuts are the world's best source of selenium. One single Brazil nut provides more than 100% of your daily needs. Selenium is crucial for thyroid function and immune health, both of which can flag as we age. However, you have to be careful. Eating too many Brazil nuts can actually lead to selenium toxicity. So, the perfect longevity snack might be 6 walnuts, 10 almonds, and just 1 Brazil nut. This provides the omega-3s for your brain, the vitamin E for your cells, and the selenium for your hormones. It's a targeted medical protocol, delivered in a delicious, crunchy format. We also have to look at the gut-brain axis. We've talked about this in previous videos, but nuts play a starring role here too. The fiber in walnuts and pistachios acts as a prebiotic. This means it feeds the beneficial bacteria in your gut. These bacteria then produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, which travel to the brain and reduce inflammation. If your gut is healthy, your brain is far more likely to stay sharp. This is why soaking your nuts, as I mentioned earlier, is so important. It removes the tannins and phytic acid that can irritate the gut lining, ensuring a smooth path for those nutrients to get where they need to go. I want to zoom out for a second and talk about why this matters on a deeper level. We are living in a time where we are told that decline is inevitable. We're told that losing our edge, feeling stiff, and having senior moments is just the price of admission for getting older. But the more we look at the intersection of nutrition and neurology, the more we see that our bodies are incredibly responsive to the data we give them through food. When you choose a handful of walnuts over a processed granola bar, you are sending a signal to your brain, I am providing the building blocks for repair. You are giving your blood vessels the tools they need to stay soft and pliable. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being informed. It's about knowing that the small choices, the snacks we choose at 3 p.m., add up over weeks, months, and years. Research from the Global Burden of Disease study suggests that if the average person simply increased their nut intake to the recommended levels, we could see a massive reduction in heart disease deaths worldwide. Specifically, among different ethnic groups, studies show that those following a Mediterranean-style diet, which is heavy on nuts, have up to a 30% lower risk of major cardiovascular events. Let's look at the numbers. If we could reduce heart disease by 30% just by changing our snacks, we would save millions of lives every year. In the U.S. alone, heart disease kills about 695,000 people annually. That's 1 in every 5 deaths. For Black Americans, the heart disease death rate is 33% higher than that of the overall U.S. population. These aren't just statistics. These are our friends, our parents, and our neighbors. When I tell you that this one matters, I mean it with every fiber of my being. We have the tools to change these outcomes, and those tools are sitting right there in your kitchen. I know that changing your diet after 60 can feel overwhelming. There is so much conflicting advice out there. You might hear one day that all fats are bad, and the next that you should eat a stick of butter in your coffee. It's exhausting. But nuts are one of the few food groups where the consensus has remained rock solid for decades. The Mediterranean diet, the DASH diet, the MIND diet. Every single science-backed eating plan for longevity puts nuts at the center of the plate. So, here is your action plan for this week. Step 1. Go to your pantry and throw out any nuts that are roasted in vegetable oils or coated in sugar. Step 2. Find a source for raw, unsalted walnuts and almonds. Step 3. Start the habit of soaking a small portion each night for the next day. It takes 30 seconds, but the payoff for your digestion is huge. And finally, Step 4. Pay attention to how you feel. Do you have less brain fog in the afternoon? Are your joints a little less stiff? Does your blood pressure reading look a little better at your next checkup? Every handful is a deliberate investment in your longevity and cognitive clarity. By choosing these natural powerhouses, you are actively protecting your vascular health and nourishing your neurons for the years ahead. Take care of your heart. Take care of your brain. And remember, aging is a privilege, but aging well is a choice. You have the power to feed your future. If this video helped you or taught you something new, I'd genuinely appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. It helps the channel more than you'd think, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. We have a lot more coming on heart health, circulation, and the best habits for aging well. I want to hear from you in the comments. What is your go-to snack? Have you noticed a difference in your energy levels or focus since you started paying more attention to your fats? I read every comment, and I love seeing the community we're building here. Take care of your heart, take care of your brain, and I'll see you in the next one.